Hey everyone, Carl here with Literate Lessons, bringing you a primer for Series 12. Yes, Series 12 rules were announced / leaked right as the new year for the United States kind of rolled over. So we're going to cover what we're expecting to be probably our last Sword and Shield series for a while. This series is supposed to run from February 1st to August 31st. So we will see what the world holds for Sword and Shield VGC for a while on this format. This is going to be one of the longest running formats, like consecutively as well. So I'm excited to look at what Series 12 has in store for us, and let's just get right into it. So why is this such a big deal? People have been asking for what essentially is GS Cup plus Dynamax for a very long time. And we expected this last year. I don't know if you remember, about the time the Series 8 was supposed to come out, our first restricted format. Everyone was expecting GS Cup, which, for those that may not know, that is 2 restricteds. And it's a big deal because having 2 restricteds on a team means that there's just that many more powerful options outside of just trying to play Zacian, Groudon, Calyrex, Shadow stuff. A lot of the times teams are in Series 8 and Series 10 in particular are geared toward playing that one powerful restricted. You don't have any kind of other options, because if you don't play that powerful restricted, you get covered up by said restricteds. We see this a lot right now in Series 10 with the power of Sun and Hot Dog and Groudon and all that stuff. Kyogre was very, very popular in Series 8 for a very long time. You would see a ton of Kyogre mirrors all the time. So now what this does is this opens the door to secondary options, if you will. These 5, I call them the big 5, and that's kind of just what they are, because they're top 5 used restricteds at the moment. Zacian, Groudon, Kyogre, and the Calyrex forms, they're going to be really used still. I don't expect their usage to fall off a ton. But what this does is it allows secondary Pokemon to be played alongside them. Like, your first initial thought is like, you get to play dual weather now with actual powerful weather Pokemon. You get to play like Zacian and Kyogre now, Zacian and Groudon, Calyrex Shadow and Kyogre, or Calyrex Ice and Groudon, things of that nature. However, there's even better options, I feel like. Some of the very lesser played mons like Yveltal, Ho-Oh, and things like that, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But overall, this opens up the door for more diversity, I feel like. Series 8 and Series 10, their flaw was being one restricted meant that you either had to play the most powerful thing, or your entire team had to be centered around beating the most powerful thing. And that was hard to do when there's 5 restricteds you have to beat, and all of them are beaten in very different ways. So now you get to play a very powerful restricted, and then maybe a not so powerful restricted that has a unique thing that can answer some of the other ones. This will overall be good for the format, I feel like. Help keep Zacian in check, because you can play Groudon, you can play other things to answer that, like Palkia and things like that. And then helps keep Kyogre in check, because you can slap Rayquaza on your team for airlock and turn off weather entirely. So it allows for a ton of potential, and overall it's probably going to be one of the most powerful formats we've ever seen in VGC, being paired with Dynamax. Being able to have the option to Dynamax either restricted if you're not playing Zacian, or Zamazenta for that matter. So looking at my first pick for sleeper restricteds to see more play here, Yveltal is high on my list. Yveltal's already a number 6, number 7 restricted Pokemon right now in Series 8 and 10, and I expect this usage to go up even more, just because Yveltal pairs so well with Zacian or Groudon and things like that. Being able to be a decent pivot and take certain hits really well is just fantastic for some restricteds. Yveltal also has access to Tailwind, which is great speed control. You have access to Sucker Punch, which will let you blow up opposing Calyrex shadows. You have Foul Play, which can blow up an opposing Calyrex ice if you need to. You can max Yveltal for max Airstreams or max Darknesses. You also have access to max Flare in the form of Heat Wave. You have access to max Phantasm, I think in the form of like Shadow Ball or Phantom Force. So Yveltal, I think, is one of my top picks right now for just like slap this Pokemon on a team, call it a day. Anywhere where you have this mediocre flying type or this Galarian Moltres on your team, kick it off, put Yveltal on. I think Yveltal is going to be a great replacement for those Pokemon, especially alongside things like Zacian or Kyogre and stuff like that. Next up, we have Ho-Oh. This is my other big option, I feel like. Ho-Oh is another one of those Pokemon that's seen enough play in Series 8 and 10 that we kind of have an idea of what it can do, and overall it's just a real good check into a lot of things. Being Fire Flying means that you're immune to ground, means you can switch in on Groudon. You get Sun boosted Sacred Fires against that thing, so you're going to be hitting it for a ton of damage. You're a real good pairing alongside Zacian because you can take all the ground type moves that Zacian would ever want to avoid. You have Regenerator as a hidden ability too, meaning that you can play this bulky stall game against Intimidators and whatnot and kind of pivot around and stall the game out. Common pairings for this thing, like I said, are going to be like alongside like Groudon or Zacian. You could probably pair this thing alongside like Calyrex Shadow and just be a bulky physical attacker alongside your very fast special attacker. The world is endless for Ho-Oh here because I feel like it's super underexplored. A personal favorite of mine is Zygarde. So Zygarde is interesting in Series 8 and 10. We saw it a lot as this like the stally Dynamaxmon. You set up a couple coils, get some max Steel Spikes, some max Quakes off, bulk up really good, and then you kind of just sit in front of your opponent and spam 1,000 Waves or 1,000 Arrows, whichever one you preferred. Usually now it carries a weakness policy if you Dynamax it, or it carries like a berry to help use its power construct ability for when it goes into its construct form, big Mega Mighty Morphin Power Rangers thing, and gets that real big HP boost. I think what's going to happen for Zygarde here is we're going to see it more as just like a weakness policy mon, especially alongside things that really need something to check, like an opposing dragon or an opposing steel type. If you think about like things like Zacian, if you think about things like Reshiram, stuff like that, things that want to be able to tank a couple hits and maybe need to change your game plan a little bit, you can easily slap Zygarde in with a weakness policy and take a couple hits, Dynamax or Coil or whatever you're wanting to do, and sweep through your opponent's team that way. Being able to have a second restricted alongside Zygarde means that your opponent has to plan for your Zacian or whatever, and then you could just send Zygarde out and just have it clean house. Next, I want to talk about some of the big five here, dual weather in particular. We already see a lot of dual weather teams floating around, the common one being like Kyogre, Torkoal, Venusaur, Tornadus stuff. So you get to do that still, but with just Kyogre and Groudon. Like, there's no downsides here for these Pokemon because they're both restricted and they're both very powerful and they both abuse their own weathers individually at the same time. Torkoal needs Trick Room to really shine, so not having to worry about that very low speed means that Groudon can be your team can be a little bit faster, can rely on Tailwind a little bit more. Groudon Tornadus is probably going to be a decent pairing as well, and being able to pivot back and forth and change the weather at will depending on who you're against is going to be insane. On the flip side of that, Rayquaza is probably going to see more play as a secondary mon, usually alongside, again, Zacian. I expect to see this thing a ton because Zacian struggles against Groudon and Kyogre, and having the ability to turn off the weather is huge. Just airlock is really big, especially when you're trying to expect to beat Kyogre and Groudon. Kyogre especially, because rain boosted water spouts really hurt. And Rayquaza being able to resist water can turn that off. You could slap an Assault Vest on this thing and just go to town. Granted, you're not the fastest thing in the world, but Zacian more than makes up for that mishap, being one of the most powerful restricteds we've ever seen. But overall, Rayquaza's got really good coverage in Dragon and Flying. It's got a bunch of cool moves, like in both the special and the physical category. You can play either or. 150s across the board there for your attacks. Stats are really, really good. I think Rayquaza is going to be a little less of a it's going to be more of a niche pick for teams that really want to beat weather, but don't want to try and play any of the other restricteds that normally help you beat weather, like Palkia or other things like that. Last up here is Lunala and Dawnwing's Necrozma. I kind of lumped these two together. We saw a ton of this Pokemon in Series 9, where it was the no Dynamax format. No, that was Series 10. Series 10 was the no Dynamax format. So this Pokemon overall is just really, really good. I think in a 2 restricted format, being able to do the wide guard thing, this is pretty much like Trick Room and almost automatic Trick Room 100% of the time. You're immune to Fake Out. You are going to take at least one hit with Shadow Shield or Prison Armor. So if they try to just single target blow you up with like a Max Darkness or whatever, you're going to probably survive, I'd say 80% of the time there. And then get your Trick Room off, go to town, do whatever. We saw a ton of Power Herb on this Pokemon, and this Pokemon abuses Meteor Beam really, really well, being able to blow up opposing Incineroar and things like that. So I would definitely expect to see Lunala paired up against like slower Pokemon like Calyrex Ice or other Pokemon that want to abuse Trick Room that way. I would definitely probably would play more and lean more towards Lunala over Dawnwing's Necrozma. That's just my personal preference. Dawnwings is going to be able to abuse Trick Room better, but in this restricted format, 97 is the same as 77 for the most part. Unless you're playing against like strictly like Trick Room team, you're not going to notice the 20 points of speed difference too much. And with that being said, I want to thank y'all for hanging out. Let me ramble about Series 11, Series 12 actually. I think this format's going to be a ton of fun. I'm excited to play with this format in about a month. Not to say Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl has been getting boring, but it's getting repetitive, and I think this is like the perfect timing to announce Series 12. Get ready to swap over to that for the next 7 months or whatever it is, and really get into what seems to be the final year for Sword and Shield before we go on to a Gen 9 game. Make sure to check us out on Twitter at RLessons, at MrMissouri25, and at MusicalPGC. Make sure to check out the Discord link in the description down below. And remember to hit that subscribe button. Ring the bell for notifications for when new videos go live. Our new upload schedules begins this week. We have a video today. We'll have a podcast up tomorrow. Laddering episode up on Wednesday. Deep dive on Friday. And then variety days will continue on Sunday. So definitely come and check out all of our content there. And we will see you all tomorrow with the podcast episode. Bye, everyone.